The ASX 200 was under pressure from the outset on Thursday. It was on a greasy slope and actually finished at the low point of the session when it was down by just over 0.5%. So there were several factors that were weighing on the market today, not least of which was the performance of regional markets, most of which ended in negative territory. But it was the Chinese market that was one of the worst performers, declining more than 3%. And this all turns around the current discussion as to whether or not the Trump administration is going to apply extra tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports. So that'll be going from 10 to 25%. It's been in the conversation over the course of recent weeks, but it's coming to a bit of a crescendo at the moment. So elsewhere, we had mining stocks quite a weight on the market, and Rio Tinto stood out in that cohort today. Their stock was down by the most part of 5%, and that all turned around the earnings result, which they reported a day earlier, albeit in London time, and today was the first chance that local investors had to respond to it. Underlying earnings were a miss. Higher costs were a part of that. What was interesting was that the dividend was high, and they also expanded their share buyback by $1 billion on top of what is already in process, and that wasn't enough to soften the blow. And under those circumstances, the response was pretty aggressive, you could argue. So elsewhere, another thing that is weighing on the performance of regional markets is the likelihood of more rate increases from the US Fed. Overnight, when announcing their decision to leave rates on hold, they actually characterised the economy as being strong, and that's an upgrade compared to what we have heard in recent times. So you could make a case that perhaps there is some money moving out of Asian markets and back into the US dollar. But as far as the local picture was concerned today, we also saw energy prices weighing on energy stocks. Santos was down by about 1%. Bank stocks were weaker, but interestingly enough, it was the regional ones that were the bigger decliners. Bendigo and Adelaide Bank and Bank of Queensland were down by more than 1%. Elsewhere, Bubs was an organisation that stood out. They released some numbers earlier on the week, their quarterlies. The market's a little bit concerned about the rate at which they are going through cash at present. The stock was down by around 5%. The Aussie dollar is a little bit weaker today at 73.8 US cents.